Ahlam, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
We're days away from the Emirates Literature Festival. This is the 18th year.
Yes.
How much sleep are you getting at this point?
Not much, but not because of the festival, because of my children.
How old are the children?
1 and 3.
Oh my, you are busy.
Yes, very busy.
I'm fortunate. My kids I have twins. They're 29, but they're back home in Toronto. They were raised here, but went home for university.
Wow.
So I don't quite remember those early years, but I wish you all the luck.
Thank you.
So this edition of the festival,
Yeah.
what are you most excited about?
You know, every festival I say that this is the best one. This really is the best one, and I feel this way about the festival coming up as well. And this festival evolves so beautifully every year in such an organic way. It's got such a strong, solid foundation now. We have a community that's incredibly loyal to us, and just the festival is very personal to a lot of people in Dubai, and so every year sort of informs what more we can do the following in a very organic, natural way. So I'm very excited about this coming year. I think it's special because we're celebrating some really great milestones from the Arab literary world. So we're celebrating 20 years of the Saif Ghabash Banipal Translation Prize, for example, which is a prize that has contributed so much to exporting Arab stories into the world by translating the best of literature into English, our literature into English. So very proud to be hosting a lot of the translators and the winners of that prize from over the past 20 years at our festival this year. The Sheikh Zayed Book Award we're celebrating. And yeah, it's going to be a really great celebration. We have a whole translation strand because really, I mean, translation is the bridge that connects cultures. And I love that this year we're really bringing cultures together through both of these plans.
I would imagine in the first few years, it would have been a very different proposition than it is today, where I can't imagine that you're having to explain to any potential author what Emirates Literature Festival is now.
Yeah.
At what point do you think, and I know you've been there a long time doing a lot of work.
Yeah.
When do you think it sort of started to switch a little bit, where the email would get an automatic response as opposed to, sorry, who are you?
I mean, it's difficult to say when. I know that like this festival started off the back of Magrudi's, you know. Magrudi's is the place where all of us as children used to go and get our books and toys, and still, you know, children today. And it's such an established community. It's an institution. And so Isabel Bilhol, who was the founder of this festival, already knew what people here would like to see, what people here read, and what more we should be presenting in form of a literature festival. And so she established something wonderful. And all the way from the first year, we had names like Margaret Atwood, for example, you know, from your hometown.
Yes.
So it's always it started big, I think, this festival, and very ambitious from its first year, but it's just evolved over the years. And today, you know, we're definitely, you know, one of the top 10 literature festivals in the world. We're part of an established global literary festival network, actually, an association about 4 or 5 years ago that we started here in Dubai, and festival directors from around the world are part of that association. And through that association, we collaborate with festivals everywhere. We've been able to send a lot of our authors to these festivals, and we have an exchange where we welcome authors from different parts of the world here. And of course, there's no better sort of advertising or promotion for who you are than word of mouth. So these authors who are coming to our festival, some of them come for the first time to the region. They maybe have preconceptions, or they actually don't know much about the region. And experiencing Dubai through a literary festival, they are immediately engaging with children, students, a community of readers who are very familiar with their work, are asking them interesting questions. They have a long book signing queue afterwards where they're engaging in a meaningful way with the community. And they go back home feeling, first of all, they get this amazing Arabian hospitality where we welcome them from point A to B, and they're very well looked after within the festival team, and they experience Dubai and the community, and they go back and they share that with their community of friends, with their publishers, with their agents. And so, if an author will receive an invitation from us, the first thing they'd do is they'd go to their agent, to their publisher, and say, what do you think? And they say, well, so-and-so has been, and they always, they've had a fabulous experience, and this is what they think, and here's all the people that you can ask. We've got amazing testimonials, and that builds, we host anywhere between 150 to 200 authors every year, and so over the years, we've had over 2,500 of the best writers from around the world. And it's not that big of a world.
No.
I think that's a good number of authors to speak on our behalf who have been here and can vouch for the work that we do in this festival.
Absolutely. I remember when my wife and kids and I, when we moved here in 2003, the first 11 years we lived in Al Ain. And so we would drive there were no bookstores, English language bookstores there. So we would drive to Magrudy's on Jumeirah Beach Road.
Yeah.
And you would spend hours. Now, of course, we lived in Japan for many years, so we're very familiar with it. But when you walk around Kinokuniya now, it's so easy to spend hours. And even though I'm a huge Kindle supporter, there's nothing like a bookstore to sort of walk around different sections to get inspired by all the different types of work that's available. And it is, I think, the city's growth, much like the festival, sort of, is a good indication about how many people know about the festival and how many more people know about Dubai as well as a result.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's done a huge amount for the local community of writers. If you look at, the network of writers that we have in the UAE, we could have a festival for them alone.
You really could.
There's such an amazing array of writers who are writing all sorts of topics, and Emirati writers as well. All of these different communities that live in the UAE side by side. There's such an interest in the Emirati culture from them as well. So now we're focused from our publishing house perspective. We're focused on translating a lot of the best of Emirati literature into English to share our stories with everyone. And the festival does a huge amount of work in this space too.
Are you somebody who believes, I don't know that I believe this or not, but that everybody has a book in them? I think everybody has a story to tell.
Yeah.
I don't know, and I've never written a book, so I can't say, but I don't know that everybody has the patience to sit down and the discipline to do it.
For sure not. My brother is a filmmaker, and he'll say he'll tear his hair out at the writing part. Like that's the hardest part to do. It's not for everyone, and some people actually can't sleep unless they've written what they have in their mind. So there is some people are musicians. Some people are, they are made for different things. We all have a story, of course, because human beings, we are all creatures of stories. And I think human beings, we understand the world around us through stories. So everybody can definitely engage with stories. And I think even those who, all those who can't write, can absolutely read a book and say, oh, that's exactly how I feel. That's exactly how I would have said it, but it's said for me. And this person said it like 300 years ago, actually. And you connect with someone from the past. You could connect with someone from a completely different part of the world. So our human experience is shared. And I think the best of writers have such a gift in verbalizing that human experience and those inner thoughts that we have, and this is why we connect so deeply with them. And words are such a powerful thing, and words can change you. Words can shape your entire personality. Words can shape your whole trajectory of life. Words can hurt. Words can uplift. Words can bring peace. Words can do so much. And so, we're very lucky to be in the champions for words.
So with this being the 18th edition, and I won't put you on the spot where I'm going to ask you, who is your favorite author attending. I won't do that.
Yeah.
But tell me maybe some of the key highlights that
Yeah.
you're looking forward to this year.
Yeah. I'm really looking forward to Zhang Chang, which was recently announced. I think she's going to be run an amazing session. Veer Das, who is a comedian actor from India, is quite popular. I'm very excited. It's going to be his first time here with us at the festival. I'm very excited to hear from Mehran Gul, who is someone who's written about sort of the tech world and Silicon Valley not being the only hub for what the innovation that's happening in the world, and how different parts of the world are doing interesting work in this space too. Who else can I tell you about? I always love the murder mystery event that we have. And this year the theme is high-rise homicide, I believe, and it's about a murder that takes place in a penthouse in Dubai and with some real estate agents.
Actually, I
And
think
we have
a friend in Pierre is actually speaking at one of these events. Shane is, I think, going to be talking at one of these. Yeah. Do you think that's going to happen more often, where books will be set in Dubai?
Yeah, we're
Because I
already
know
seeing it happen.
we're certainly seeing it happen
Yeah.
with films, right?
Yeah.
And I think, of course, Mission Impossible is the big one where that sort of kicked off. But
Yeah.
Is it happening more in books?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. There's a lot more books set in Dubai, and we run a writers' fellowship, which started 5 years ago now. And every year we welcome into this fellowship 10 aspiring writers who are based in Dubai and who have a really unique voice and they're writing fiction. And we work with them on developing that story, on pitching it to agents, on finding a publisher. It's a whole, I mean, it's a dream program for any aspiring writer. But within the fellowship alone, we have some really interesting stories developing, which are based in Dubai, a mix. We have a romance, a murder mystery, and all sorts, just a family saga. So I think watch the space. In the next couple of years, we're going to start to see really interesting Dubai-based stories coming out or UAE-based stories coming out that will travel really well also around the world.
Yeah, I think that there's Dubai is that well-known brand that I would think that for publishers, it probably has a certain gravitas that is probably appealing to them. Talking about, budding authors and whatnot, but, with the young people today, do you think that there are challenges? Because I think that not just the young, but the older folks as well, myself included, we get stuck sometimes watching social media a little bit too much during the course of a day. And is there a challenge to try to make sure that young people are always going to be feeling comfortable picking up a book or a Kindle?
Yeah. So, I think that the print versus Kindle conversation we were having earlier for little children, especially board books, pop-up books, they play a huge role in those early years. And you don't necessarily want to be putting them in front of a screen that young, even a Kindle. And the colors and the textures, the sensory side of things, and the audio in the early phase of. I see it with my kids. They're so drawn to certain books, and we get to act them out. Me, their dad, and. I think, and it's easier for us because our kids are a little bit younger. There's not that pressure in that all their classmates have a phone or all their classmates have iPads that they, and I'm sure that gets a lot more difficult as the kids grow. But I think we have to, as adults and as parents, teach them how to live life consciously and not passively, and create opportunities for them to engage with the physical world in a structured way, in a way that there's diversity around them, in a way that the world is engaging and interesting, whether it's playing outside, whether it's putting them within activities that grab their interests and attention. And I think what books offer is an opportunity to build your critical thinking. Children's books are my new obsession, honestly. I think they are the most necessary thing, even for adults to read. I mean, I have been on such a journey just reading hundreds and hundreds of books with my kids, and the lessons that they remind us, even as adults. And the thing is, the best children's books are built in such a way where they're teaching kids to think critically, use their imagination. And when you know how to use your imagination really well, you can solve any problem, and you take that with you into your adult life. And this is where we build that ability within children, whereas if we put them in front of an iPad, like from a young, they will never develop that. We are lucky in that, we've had an entire childhood and life before AI and before social media, where we were learning, and so now when we engage with AI and when we engage with all the tech around us, we are able to do so in a way that, you can look at an answer on ChatGPT and say, no, actually, you haven't considered so and so, or correct this or correct that. But imagine not developing what you want or what you're looking for. You're not going to be able to even direct it. It's going to direct you completely because you will have nothing to feed back to it. I think that's one way of looking at things, but it's just that when it comes to books, even for us adults, it's giving us an opportunity to practice those brain muscles that allow us to think deeply and meditate within ourselves and take a content and let it linger and not rush through it, and actually sit through something for 150 pages, 200 pages, one story, and really give it that time, that attention alone with yourself and your thoughts to really contemplate it. I think it's a necessary thing for us to evolve as human beings.
Yeah. I also think that at least in my family, what we did with the kids from a very early age is we started reading to them for 20 minutes at the end of the day. And it brought the four of us together. Sometimes Jude, my wife, would read, sometimes I would read, but we would read out loud. And so it was actually the first night we arrived here, we started with the first Harry Potter book. And we ended up reading all 7 out loud to the kids. And it took, obviously, a long time. I think it took almost 5 or 6 years to do. But it was a great bonding experience. It was also something that was incredibly important to us, as both my wife and I being readers. We wanted the kids to be readers. And we've been able to pass that along. And so when you walk into either my son's apartment in Toronto or my daughter's, I mean, there are books there and it's something that I think as a parent, you should be able to take great pride in the fact that, your kids enjoy that process.
Right.
I do think it's a challenge today. And I know, speaking with teachers, for instance, that sometimes, kids, they might not know cursive that well because everything is,
typed.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm always happy, when I hear people talking about the importance of books, especially children's books. And I think being able to give your kids books when they're 2, 3, 4, 5, it's something that is theirs.
I mean, when you think about the unknowns of this world and how at this point we feel like we can't even predict what will happen in a year, like what will the world look like? We don't know, right? So what do you prepare your kids for? I think the thing that we're preparing them for is to be able to adapt and find answers. And what better way to do that than to say, I want to understand a little bit more about this. Maybe I'll read a book on that,
Absolutely.
on this and that, and they'll find it.
Yeah. So getting back to the festival, the logistics of it, walk me through where is that day one where you start thinking, okay, we're going to plan the 19th edition of the festival. What is it that how does it begin? Does it begin with who do we want? Or does it begin with what the theme is? Like, from a logistical point of view, walk me through some of the considerations.
So I think it begins for me the invites. I mean, we already have some names confirmed for 2027. So the
Wow.
invites are always a moving part, because we might invite an author, might say, "Oh, my schedule is blocked for the next year." We'll immediately say, "What about the next?" And they say yes, and we block them in. So the invites, we're always working sort of a year and a half in advance, and we already know some of who is coming the following year. But I would say the planning for the next festival starts the next day after we finish, when we sit down and do our SWOTs, and we're looking at what went well, what didn't go well, what are the opportunities, and what would be great for next year immediately, the next day. And so we put that together. Every team does that. Then we come and sit together and we discuss it in depth, and we do that for a week. And then following that, it's full on looking at, our dates, we also agree ahead of time. So we know already our dates for 2027 so that we can invite authors. And it's a moving feast. I would say a year and a half for each festival. And then, looking at how we can improve, what we would add, what are some new initiatives we're going to put through, themes, conversations, formats of events.
And does it also, are you looking outside to sort of see what's quite popular now? What
Yeah,
books are doing
100%.
well? You
So
want to
we
get
go
a
to-
sense of maybe being able to reflect what the community wants?
Yeah, so we often meet publishers from all over the world at London Book Fair. And that's where we meet with, we have hundreds of meetings where not hundreds, but a lot of meetings where we every 30 minutes, we're like back to back having meetings with everyone over there, looking at what's new, what's coming up, what's popular, what's the new thing, what are some debut novels, what's who's on our wish list, and all of those conversations start happening there. And then once we come back, we're inviting authors again. So for us, we're done with our program by the end of summer, and so September onwards is just about finalizing things to announce and then start the promotional work. And so we've got our cycle down now.
So I assume, because you're a reader,
Yeah.
a certain percentage of your reading time that is sort of devoted to work type reading, where you want to know who the authors are, you want to become familiar with their work. If you were to sort of divide it up, is there, 50% is purely for pleasure, 50% is kind of pleasure, but also a little bit work related?
Yeah, I think it's all blurred together now. I do a lot of my reading is of people who have either been or coming to the festival, because it's just so diverse. I mean, it's, if you've got 200 authors, that's plenty to read. I'm still reading backlists from people who've been at the festival 3 years ago that I haven't managed yet. So a lot of it is that. Some of it is I might see a review, or
Right.
a book might win an award. And then I do really enjoy audio as well, because we drive to work every day and the traffic is so bad.
Yes.
That's sometimes 45 minutes in the car. And that's, I do love audiobooks. And sometimes I switch back and forth between a physical and...
For me, I've been a fan as a subscriber to Audible since it began. And I used to, when I'd go home to Toronto in the summer, there were stores where you could go in and rent, like Blockbuster, but you could rent either the cassettes or the CD.
Oh, wow.
And then what I would do is I would record my own version while I was there, knowing that I would not have access to anything like this here.
Yeah.
So I would spend hours, and I'd come back with 10 or 15 books that I could then listen, because we lived in LA, but I would work in Dubai. So I was constantly commuting. And so now Audible is the best.
It's amazing.
And one of the things, and I'd be curious about your thoughts, is you don't just fall in love with the author, but sometimes you fall in love with the reader as well.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think it's a real treat when you can get an autobiography that's been
100%
read by the author.
I think I had one of the oddest ones it was really sad, actually. Matthew Perry. I had just finished listening to the audio book, and then he passed away like a month later, and it was so odd. It felt like I had this like intimate goodbye with him. You know, I was listening to him on my drives for like a week, and his story is really sad. And then he passed away. It was a very difficult experience. And this is the thing, you know, what books offer that nothing else can. It's so vulnerable. It's so intimate, even when it's fiction. You know, often the harshest truths are covered in fiction, and so the human experience is so vivid in a lot of fiction stories.
Yeah, I think that story with Matthew Perry in particular, I think resonates because for 15, 20 hours,
Yeah,
you would have heard
in his own voice,
yes,
talking about his
his
pain,
own
his
stories.
childhood, his relationships, his struggles, his darkest moments, and then it felt like a goodbye letter, you know, that all of us were a part of. Yeah, it's crazy that we have this sort of access in this day and age.
Yeah. And it's, you know, it is at a time when, you know, traditionally celebrities would have been, I think, very distant from us, you know, when we were growing up. And I'm not going to say you're the same age as I am, but, you know, it was before social media. Now, of course, you can see somebody's life. But when you have them talking about, the one that I remember is a few years ago, maybe 5 or 7 years ago, Bruce Springsteen came out with his autobiography. And then he talked about everything from growing up, not the healthiest relationship with his father, and then also about depression and mental illness in his family as well, and how that's something he struggled with. And when you hear him talking about his, as you said, you know, his own stories, it makes it that much more personal. And I think you start to develop as a listener at that point. You start to develop that relationship.
You're so connected with them.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and sometimes, because in Dubai, we have celebrities here all the time, right? And then sometimes I will briefly meet a celebrity, and it's funny, like, you know, you might shake their hand or say, yeah, hello, but you know them so intimately already. you know, it's not really odd. I think about that, is that how do they feel interacting with people who know them so deeply, but they know nothing about us, and we're kind of like, oh, that thing that happened with you, poor guy.
Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate this.
Thank you for having me. This was great.